live. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in our virtual brown bag session. This is our College of Engineering presentations for you. And today's presentation is one that's definitely beneficial for students. We have Kay Byington from Student Money Management today. She's going to tell you a lot about what Student Money Management offers. And then if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A chat, and we will get to your questions as the presentation goes on. So I'm going to let Kay go ahead and get started. If she'd introduce yourself first and then start us off.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. My name is Kay Byington, and I'm from the Student Money Management Center, which, if you didn't know, we're a free resource here on campus. We do budgeting, savings, credit with our students. We kind of act as a liaison between the Office of Student Accounts and also the Office of Financial Aid, because sometimes you're not quite sure which of those two you want to go to or need to go to. You might be saying, hey, I didn't get my refund, and so financial aid's telling you go to student accounts, but when you go to student accounts, they say, oh, financial aid didn't disperse. Well, we're kind of in the middle, and I'm actually an assistant director in the Office of Student Accounts, but my physical office is inside financial aid, so I'm kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to that. So I can help just kind of navigate any kind of financial obstacles while you're in school, and just, sometimes it seems like we have our own language. We're talking, reg, non-reg, sub, unsub, T-calc, all kinds of things. I can help translate that into normal English for you. So like I said, we're a free service, and I'll give you some contact information here in just a moment, and we can go ahead and change slides. All right, like I was saying, we're going to go over budgeting, savings, credit, and just an overview of our services. And then at the end, of course, I'll answer whatever questions you have. All right, I'm ready. All right, so the number one reason why people drop out of school, as you can see, is because of money. They're either having to work too much to support themselves, they don't have enough money to pay their tuition, they have that past due hold, things like that. And we know that once you drop out of school, it's extremely difficult to get back going. And so my goal is to help you overcome whatever financial obstacles you have that's between you and your diploma. And so that's what our department does. We look to see where you're at, see what's going on, see what we can do to help you stay in school and to be able to balance your, life, paying for your bills, paying for your rent, your stress on never having any free time because you're either studying or working, things like that. So we kind of try to help you balance all those plates so that you have spending at the same time while you're a student. So, and also, something to think about, and of course, y'all, I would think you would know that, people who drop out of school, they're going to have more debt and they're going to have less income. And so we don't want that for you. So we want to help you get those educational goals. Next. All right. So normally this is something that we do live in classrooms, and so we get feedback. We talk about a budget, what's it good for, what are some negative connotations, things like that we have with it. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to budgeting, besides just not budgeting, is they think it's you figure it out, you set it up, you do your budget, it's balanced, and then it's set and it's done. But that's not really it. What we really encourage you to do is, we can set you up a budget, help you figure out how your money is supposed to go. You get your money. Every dollar should have a job. It should be on the budget. And then at the end of your pay period, or periodically, you should then log back into your budget, pull it up, and compare to what you projected you wanted to do to actuality. Maybe you'd put you're going to spend $200 a month on food, and you realize that that's really not realistic, that you need to up that, or you need to have other resources added there to supplement your food intake, things like that. And so it's not just to set it and forget it. It's an active live tool that you need to use often. Here at ETA, me working here, we get paid just once a month, so it's kind of easy because I can have all my bills set up. I get all my income, so it's easy for me. But if you're getting paid once a week or every 2 weeks, things like that, that's gonna depend on that's going to help you decide on how you want to do it. But you want to just analyze what's happened. You want to evaluate and see where you need to adjust. Like maybe you need to add more to your groceries. And so where am I going to cut that out from? Maybe I need to, lower how much money I'm spending going out or what have you. So just, that's what I would encourage you to do. One of the negative connotations that I would say that, and this is just me personally, and y'all might not be like me, but I always said a budget was kind of a bad word and it was going to control me and tell me what to do with my money. And I don't know about you all, but I don't like being controlled and told what to do. But I actually find a budget is a very helpful tool with freedom, because I know my bills are paid. I know I have money for next month. I know I have my emergency savings account, things like that. So if I'm going to stop on my way home from work and buy something, I can do that without the guilt. So actually having a budget isn't about building guilt and guilting you into spending your money a certain way. It's freedom and it's helping you live guilt-free and being in control. So we'll go ahead and change slides. All right, so there's simple ways to do a budget, of course. If you go to our website, which is uta.edu/money, there's a budgeting tool on there. You can do it a couple different ways on there. You can pull up a monthly budget, and so you can enter like the rent you pay, your car payment, whatever else you pay monthly, and then you're gonna your income from your job. And hopefully at the end of the month you have some money left over. If not, you need to go up and reevaluate. What am I going to change? Is there any expenses that I can cut down? Or perhaps, maybe I need to pick up an extra shift at work, or just whatever it is that you need to do to balance your budget out. So you want to look at that. Then also, if there's a positive number, then, just don't have that money to the side where it's just going to float away. Like I was saying earlier, every dollar should have a job. And so, if you realize you do your budget and, I have $400 unaccounted for, make sure you do something with that purposefully. And that way it just doesn't disappear. And one of the biggest things that we always teach about budgeting is paying yourself first. Like I was saying earlier, I get paid once a month. And what I used to do is I would, pay all my bills, do what I wanted for the month. And then at the end of the month, whatever was left over before I got paid again, I'd put into my savings account. And as most of you could probably guess, at the end of the month, when I just did it that way, there really wasn't much left to put into my emergency savings. So what I ended up doing was reevaluating that. And so when I'm making my budget up for the month, I put, my gas, my groceries, my car payment, house payment, and then my savings account on there. So that it's just like an actual bill. I act like I'm paying TXU or something. So I pay my savings account first, and that way I learn to live on what's left over. That's how it's worked for me to be able to actually build up an emergency savings account. So if, like I was saying, if you go to our website, uta.edu/money, you can do that monthly budget on there, or you can also do a semesterly budget. So you could put like, what's your spring tuition going to be? Your textbooks, you can put on the, your financial aid package, and you can figure out how you're sitting for the semester. Make sure you have enough funding. You can evaluate whether or not you need to accept your student loans. Perhaps you just have enough money of grants that's going to pay, and scholarship that's going to pay your tuition. We want you to be a wise consumer and only borrow what you need. We don't want you to go into debt. UTA has a great reputation about low college debt upon graduation, and we want to keep it that way. So that's a tool to help you figure out what you need so you don't over borrow, or also so you don't get into a bind where you can't continue with your education. And then also, you don't have to use our budgeting tool. There's lots of different ways to budget. You can do like an Excel spreadsheet. That's what I personally do. Some people just like pen and paper, do the math on paper. There's all different kinds of tools. You can check out Mint is a good app that you can use. And it kind of coordinates with your bank. And then you can also do Every Dollar is another great app I would recommend. So if you want to budget, that's a good way to do it. You can get going on our website. You can do it on an app. You can do it on Excel. You can come into our office and we can sit down with you and help you do it as well. So if it's something new that you've never done, that's a good way to do it. Okay, let's go ahead and change screens. All right. And like I was saying, just, you want to be in control of it. You guys are college students. I'm sure you know the difference between a want and a need, things like that, and of course we want to prioritize our monthly bills over like, going out or buying concert tickets or what have you. There's just different ways that, like I was saying before, the only wrong way to do it is just not to do it. So you have to figure out what works for your personality type. Like it's talking about like the envelope method. That's where, say you have an envelope, like a food envelope, a going out envelope, a gas envelope, and you actually fill it full of cash, like each envelope. So when my food envelope is empty, that means I'm done buying food. And so, just it depends on how your personality. Some people tell me that if they actually use cash money instead of their debit card, it kind of resonates more with them. They see those green dollar bills floating away and they're like, hey, I better slow my roll. I'm, spending too much money. But I also have had other students tell me that whenever they have the real money, like dollar bills in their hand, they feel like it's monopoly money and they just go through it. And so they're saying that they have to use their debit card because when they see it on their bank app, it really hits them. So figure out how you are wired and go with the way that works for your personality. All right, let's keep going. All right, and of course, we all know it's important to save. We can save now. As a college student, I'd recommend having a savings account for emergencies. You get a flat tire on your way to campus. You want to be able to, get that taken care of without having to call your parents or without having to do like a payday loan or credit card debt, things like that. So it's important just to have that emergency savings fund. And some people say, well, how much should I have in an emergency savings fund? I'm going to tell you that depends on your situation. If you're a college student and you have a safety net like parents and maybe you're living at home with your parents, I would, just say, if you had $500 set aside for, like a car repair or something, that would be awesome. But if you're out on your own and you're paying rent and stuff, the answer to that question, they normally try to say is 6 to 9 months of expenses. And I know that's a lot for a college student. That's just something for you to take on for, maybe after you graduate as well. But, just keep that in mind. We can do, short-term savings goals. Maybe you're going to go on study abroad one semester while you're in school. And of course, then later we want to look at, buying a house, retirement, things like that. And like right now, you're probably saying, hey, I'm just barely, squeaking by. I'm a college student. You can, not think about the retirement. But if you do have a little extra money and you're kind of thinking, what do I want to do with that and get going for my retirement? Look into a Roth IRA. That's something that would be really helpful as a college student. If I was your age and I was wanting to start thinking about my retirement, that's what I would recommend doing, a Roth IRA. All right, we'll go ahead and change screens. Of course, different ways to save, either increase your income or decrease expenses. And like I said, you're a college student. How much time do you have to increase your income? I mean, it's all good and well for me to say to pick up other hours, but I also know you have a huge study schedule, classes, you have activities, you have, just family, different things like that. And so you want to make sure that you're balancing things. So keep, don't get so wrapped up in working and earning money that you end up neglecting your school. You're not going to be in school forever. So I'd say decrease those expenses, live small now, and that way you can get out of school with your degree and with less debt. Just a savings account is a good idea. Sometimes you can do it where like you can set it up where each time you do a payday, it can automatically deposit a certain amount into your savings account. Or there's different banks that do things like they'll round up. So like say I make a purchase that's $5.50. It takes the 50 cents left over to make it whole $6, and they put that in my savings account. And little by little, it does add up. So there's all different ways to save. Just, explore, what works for you. Here's on my desk. There's my current savings for my desk. It's, so just, it all adds up. So get going on your savings. Whoops, I tried to change my own slide. Can we go ahead and change? All right, and we'll go on. I think 2 more slides. 1 more. Yeah, and that's just kind of an overview. So we're going to talk about our credit and our credit report. So we'll go ahead and move on about that. So, we always ask, what's a good credit score? What is your credit score good for? Things like that. So a credit score is just a numerical expression of what you've done financially. Now, if you're 18 years old and you don't have any credit, you're not going to have a really high credit score, because we're going to talk about later what makes up the different portions of your credit score. But it's a numerical expression that expresses what you've done in the past financially. Now it's kind of like your GPA. So each of your lines of credit would be like a class on your transcript, and then all that added together is going to give you your credit score or your GPA, like adding all your classes together. So you do good things, it goes up. You do things you're not supposed to, and it goes down. And so, if you don't have any credit history, it's hard for them to, take a risk. But if you have credit history and you haven't done what you're supposed to, then that's even a bigger risk for the lender. And what's important to think about your credit score, it varies from 350 to 850. That's the numerical range. And you want to, if you and I both go into a car dealership to buy a new car, and my credit score is 660 and yours is 720, meaning you're higher, it doesn't mean that I won't be able to buy my car, but it means I'm probably going to buy a car at a higher interest rate. Therefore, I'm going to pay more for that car because they're taking a bigger risk on me because my credit score is lower. So that's kind of how your credit score affects your purchases. We'll move on. All right, and here's a little pie chart that shows what's in your credit score. As you can see, payment history is the biggest chunk. So, the biggest thing I can say there is to make your payments on time every time. Amounts owed is your next bigger pie chart section. And what that is, it's like your credit utilization. And so to keep that looking good, what the credit score, what's going to help your credit score be positive on that is to utilize your credit where you're only using 30% or less of available credit. So if you have a credit card limit of $1,000, you should always keep that balance below $300 to keep that in a good score, because they're saying, hey, this person's disciplined, they're doing what they're supposed to do, or hey, this person's maxed out this credit card, they're kind of out of control, what's going on there? You can see 15% of it's your length of credit history. So the only thing you can do there is just, age basically. And so you want, to, start building your credit when you can. Someone was, we did a poll during orientations a few years ago, right before COVID. And it was, what was the number one question college students have going into college? And we thought it was going to be things like, grants or scholarships or how to, pay for college. It was, how do I get a credit card? So, but upon looking, and that kind of shocked me, and upon looking at it and talking in depth to some of the students, it wasn't the fact they wanted the credit card to go and purchase things. They wanted a credit card in order to start building their credit. So what we'd recommend for our college students, if you're wanting to build credit, start that, get that length of credit history going. What you can do is you can go to your bank and do a secured credit card. That would be something you can look up for the details later. But basically, say you have $500 set aside, and you can go to your bank, open a secured credit card. You give them your $500, they put it in an account, and now you have the credit card. You can use that card every month to, fill up your gas tank or what have you. Then you make that payment. Well, the bank's not taking any risk on you because they already have your $500. So if you don't do what you're supposed to do, they're not out anything. So that's why they're willing to go ahead and do this for you. So if you do what you're supposed to do, they're going to report to the credit report that you're doing what you're supposed to do, and it's going to help build your credit. And then after like 6 months to a year, they're going to take that secured credit card and convert it into a normal credit card, and they'll give you your $500 back. You don't lose that money or anything. And it's a good way for you to kind of flex that credit muscle and see how you're doing on it without taking a big risk of going into debt. So that's something I would recommend. So I say, if my college students tell me they want to open a credit card, I would say try the secured credit card first. That's kind of a little baby step into the credit world. All right, let's go ahead and change. All right, so, like I was saying on the credit cards, these are some things to consider. Of course, you want to look into your interest rate, penalties. There's rewards that come with a lot of credit cards. Just be an informed consumer. Do a lot of research before you do a credit card on there. A lot of times, like on the annual percentage rate, you're going to see you'll get like a really low, like maybe 1.9%. But if you look, there's an asterisk. It's like for the first 6 months, and it might go up to 12.99 or what have you. So just make sure you do some research on that if you're wanting to do a credit card. All right, we can switch. I think we skipped one. There. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what order we're in, but that's okay. We just did that one. There we go. So say, for instance, you have a credit card balance of $1,000 and you have 24% interest. If you just make that minimum payment, it's going to cost you $1,035 in additional charges to pay that off. It's going to take you 7 years. So make sure you're thinking about that before you use your credit card to go into debt for, for things like, impulsive purchases, things like that. We always say we're going to get a credit card for emergencies, but we have sometimes our definition of emergency changes, with peer pressure, things like that. So make sure if you do have a credit card, you're only using it in a controlled manner. If you find that you have a balance that you can't pay off each month, make sure you pay more than the minimum, because you don't want to take 7 years to pay off that card. I'd hate to think that 7 years from now I'm paying for a lunch I bought today. That would be awful to me. So something to think about is, credit cards cost you a lot of money if you don't do it right. Let's go ahead and change screens. I think we skipped one again. All right, here's just how long things are staying on your credit reports. If you have an open account in good standing indefinitely, late or missed payment, 7 years. That's going to affect you for a long time. 7 years from now, think about what you're going to be doing. You might be wanting to buy a house or something, So you want to make sure that you're taking care of business today. The collection accounts, it says 7 years, but that's kind of a yes and no question on that, or answer on that, because yes, it can stay on there for 7 years, but what will happen, say for instance, I am a collection agency and I have your account, you owe me $500 and you don't pay it. And then after about 6 years or so, I can sell your account to another collection agency and they're going to try to collect it and they get a new 7 years. So if you owe something, own up to it, try to get it cleared up. Don't just ignore it, because it isn't going to go away, most likely. The credit, yes.
There's a quick question. Mm-hmm. It says, if you pay the amount of money you owe during the designated time limit given, does it affect your credit score?
It's going to show that you like positive use. It's going to be a positive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the credit inquiries, you're going to see there's going to be hard inquiries and soft inquiries. Now, the soft inquiry is like, you ever get that pre-approved credit card offer in the mail, things like that. Or if you pull up your own credit report, that's called a soft inquiry. That doesn't affect your credit. The other inquiry is a hard inquiry. That's where if I go and I apply for a credit card or a loan, things like that, where an agency is pulling up my credit report to evaluate whether or not to give me credit. That's a hard inquiry. It's just a little ding on your credit. It's not a huge amount, but it does stay on there for 2 years. Something to know though, so you're going to go buy a new car and you want to be an informed consumer and you want to check, 3 or 4 different loans out to see which is going to give you the best rate and repayment options. Whenever you're doing that, you have a 7-day window where all those inquiries for like your car loan, or if you're doing a mortgage loan, it's as one episode, because they know you're not out there buying 7 different cars. That they know you're out there shopping around for a car. So it's okay to compare. Don't think, oh, I pulled my credit for the one loan, but I don't really like the terms they gave me and I can't go on. You can just, you have about a week to get your business done on that. We'll go on. All right, so if you want to check out your credit report and credit score, you can go to annualcreditreport.com, and there you can just get a copy of your credit history. There's 3 different credit reports you can pull there. So what I recommend doing, this is what I do, is I don't get on there and pull all 3 at the same time. I do them, 3 or 4 months apart, and that a way I can see if something funky is going on with my credit before it's been a whole year. Because say it's, it's October and I pull all 3, everything looks good, and I can't pull it again until next October. That gives, a credit or identity theft person an entire year to wreak havoc on my credit. But if I was to pull like one like Experian now and then TransUnion in December, if something happened between October and December, I would be more prone to catching it. So you'll see stuff on there. I did have a staff member here on campus come in my office quite upset. She did this. She went to annualcreditreport.com and she found a mortgage for a house in San Antonio, Texas, that it was not hers. And she was, really upset and didn't know what to do. Well, a couple weird things about it was this mortgage was like 8 months old and they had been making every payment on time. And normally when people steal your identity and do, identity, credit fraud, things like that, they don't normally make the payments for you, and especially not on time. And so, we were looking into this, and all hers was, it was a very easy fix. It was just somebody had transposed 2 numbers when entering the Social Security number in the report. It wasn't anything. It wasn't anyone doing anything that they shouldn't have been doing. It was just a simple mistake. So it was pretty easy to get fixed. But, so you want to look on there. If you do ever pull up your credit report and you see stuff on there that it's not yours, there's certain procedures you have to go through in order to get it cleared up. And I do actually have like a little online form. It's something I could send to you if you ever do need that. And you can also go to creditkarma.com, and on there you can pull up your credit report and you actually get a score on there. You can see what's going on with your credit. I like that because it gives you a lot of inside information. Like, say for instance, I get October's report. It might tell me that my credit score went up 6 points and this is why, or my credit score went down 7 points and this is why. So it kind of tells you, kind of gives you that positive and negative feedback, so you kind of know what you're doing. So creditkarma.com and annualcreditreport.com are 2 good ones. Now there's freecreditreport.com that you always see the commercials and stuff for. Don't do that one. That's actually not free. They give you one for free, and then they make you enter your debit or credit card number, and then it's an automatic subscription. So don't do that one. So annualcreditreport.com is the way to go if you're going to do that. And we'll go ahead and change screens. All right, so this is my information. Student Money Management Center. We're in the University Administration Building on the 2nd floor. We're right inside the Financial Aid Office, room 252A. You can follow us on whatever social media you like at UTA Money, all one word. You can come and see us. You can go onto our website, uta.edu/money, and make an appointment to come in, set up like a counseling session, or you can just walk in. If we have a counselor available, you're welcome just to walk in and we'll help you on the spot. And there's our information back, and then I will go ahead and just wait for questions.
Thank you so much, Kay. Let me check. One question is people asking if this is recorded so they can get back to it. So I'm actually putting our recording website on here so people will be able to reference this. And then, let's see. So let me check the questions, because I came up with a couple of questions, but if students come up with questions, you guys please put them in the chat. So I know you mentioned that students leave school a lot of the time because of financial reasons. Is there any one biggest problem that you see students having that causes them to have financial problems or financial difficulties?
Yeah, a lot of times we'll get students, they'll come in and they'll be past due, like in their housing and their meal plan, and they can't register for future classes because of this past due balance. And, I'll ask them, you're living at Casey Hall with this meal plan, What was your plan whenever you signed these contracts? How were you going to pay for this? And they just assume that financial aid was going to take care of it, or they just assumed it was going to work out. And it doesn't always work out. So I think just not preparing for things ahead of time is the biggest thing. And another thing I see is students will drop out of school because they're past due, instead of coming to our office to ask for resources. A lot of times I can extend a payment due date. I can come up with a payment arrangement, make an exception. So ask. We're here to help you. We want you here in school. We like you graduating on time. Those are things that we get rewarded for. So please, you're not alone in this. Come in and see us and ask for help.
That's actually something I didn't know. I didn't know that your office could assist with things like payment arrangements. So I'm really glad to know that, because that means I can share that more with students. So another question that I have, do you at all work with student organizations or groups, or is it only for individuals?
I present at some organizations and groups, like like the Terry Scholars. I usually present to them semesterly. Some of the Greek life people will go and present on just, budgeting for college, things like that. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, yeah, definitely. Like if there's an organization, like I know we have like Society of Women Engineers, things like that. I would love to come and speak to you all at a monthly meeting.
Okay. Awesome. How do students, other than you presenting the class, how else do students find out about student money management? Does financial aid mention that? Does student accounts mention that?
Yes to all of that. What we actually do is we try to catch every student at orientation. So we presented every new Maverick orientation, transfer orientation, and veteran orientation. And then we're also at the resource fairs for all those. And then we go into the first year experience classes and introduce just the topic of money to students. We don't get into policy and procedure and things on how to build credit, but we do a little game called Money Habitudes. It talks about our money habits and attitudes and just starts getting you thinking about how you relate to your money and like your emotions that are tied into your money. And then you can see that, who we are, how we are, and that we're not, standoffish people and come into our office. We're going to help you out.
Awesome. So we have a student question, and it says, I'm in a very lucky position where many of my expenses are covered, tuition, food, housing. Right now I have a campus job as a TA, getting paid a decent amount that I don't necessarily need to live well during the campus or during the semester. The only reasons I have to use that money is for fun. So what do you recommend I do with that money savings-wise?
Sure. I mentioned it earlier. The first thing I do is make sure you have a safety net, like an emergency savings fund. So, you need to figure out what you need if something was to happen, if you needed to survive 90 days without any kind of income, things like that, what you need. Set that amount aside to somewhere you can get to quickly. Then if you're still having money and you're wanting just to get going on like retirement or long-term goals, look, like I said earlier, into a Roth IRA. That's just, it's a retirement account. You can deposit, I believe, up to $6,000 annually into it, and you can borrow against it later for like your mortgage and things like that. So that would be something I would recommend. And of course, you want to keep a little money for fun.
So there's a follow-up from the same student who mentions they were thinking about the Roth IRA, like you just mentioned. Where do they go to open one?
I can't give you the name of a company to go to because we get in trouble for doing things like that. But just like any kind of investment firm, things like that, you just have to do some research on it.
Okay. So we have another question. And it says, my credit score started off at a 785. My guess is that applying for a car loan would not be easy because there's little to no history, right? Also, how long should I show good payment history before applying for a car loan at a young age without a cosigner?
Actually, a 785 is an excellent credit score. It starts at 350. Most people, whenever they're just starting out, start in the mid 600s. So 785 is awesome. I wouldn't see that you would have any issue going for a car loan at that point. So I don't know how you got the 785 already, but it sounds like you're in good credit shape.
Awesome. Let's see. Very good. All right. So definitely students are interested. I'm just I'm checking back and forth through their questions here. So where are you physically located if students wanted to come talk to you?
Sure. So we're in the University Administration Building, which is 701 West Netterman Drive. It used to be called Davis Hall. Our building name changed a year or so ago. We're on the second floor. So if you come into the building, go to the second floor, act like you're going into financial aid. When you walk into financial aid, our office is right there as you walk in. Now, having said that, we're getting a new office built. So if you hear construction noise in the background here in a little bit, that's what's going on. And we're gonna move down to the first floor in the same building. But as soon as you walk in from that first floor door, you're going to see us right there. Fantastic. And that should be January.
Fantastic. All right. Let's see. Let's go back to my new questions. Oh, it says I'm showing them all to you right now. Okay.
One thing I didn't mention that I should have mentioned is October 1st, FAFSA for the next academic year opened. So if you haven't done your FAFSA, now is the time to get on there, because the earlier you do it, the more chances are that you're going to get the free money of grants. If you're qualified, you're going to hit those deadlines. So make sure you renew your FAFSA now.
So remind those who don't recognize the acronym what FAFSA stands for.
Sure. Federal Application for Free. Oh, I just lost the acronym.
Financial student.
Financial aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it's loans, grants. It puts you in running for some scholarships, things like that. I would say if you're eligible to apply for financial aid, to do it, because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to take out loans, so I don't apply. But do it, because you may end up getting, a grant or something, and you might be leaving some free money on the table.
Right. Since we're here, could you tell our audience, I don't know if you know this, that's why I'm hesitating. Do you know about the Blaze Forward program? And if you do, could you tell us about the Blaze Forward program?
I know a little bit about it. It's basically where if your family income is a certain amount and you have an expected family contribution. So when you do your FAFSA, there's a little formula they use that say how much your cost of school is, one is your financial aid, and you have like this expected family contribution. Depending on that and on whether or not you're eligible for Pell Grant, you can get a Blaze Forward package, which basically what that is, say for instance, your tuition is $6,000 and you get awarded $5,000 in Pell and state grants. And so you have $1,000 unmet need there for your tuition. They would give you the Blaze Forward grant to make up the difference. So then you would get $1,000. So your entire tuition and fee portion would be paid in full by grant money. Now, there's a lot of people who've gotten confused because they thought that the Blaze Forward would pay for everything for college. So it's not going to pay for your residence halls and your meal plans, things like that. But then, it is going to free up a lot of money for you to be able to go and pay for those things.
Fantastic. It did only start this semester, correct? And it was only for new students, or was it for continuing students, or do you know?
I don't know that answer.
Okay. I think it was only for new, but I'm not 100% positive either. So, all right. Let's see. So I was going to go back. You mentioned that one of the things you could do in talking with students is help them decide things about looking at packages they might get offered or combinations of loans and student aid. Could you maybe just refresh for our viewers the difference between scholarships, grants, and loans, and then, what that does, how UTA builds financial packages?
Yes, and apparently they just started the construction, so I hope you can hear me still.
We can hear you, so we're good.
Okay, so basically you're going to get a financial aid offer letter, and it's going to show on there the different things. Like one, it's going to show grants, which that's free money that's given to you either by the state or federal government. That is going to, this money you don't have to pay back that you can use for your school expenses. And that's normally based upon need. Then you can also get scholarships, which normally those are going to be based upon academics. And of course, that's free money you don't pay back. On saying that, on both of those, there's certain requirements you have to get, like a certain GPA perhaps, or a certain number of credit hours completed during the academic year. So make sure you look at those items so you don't miss out, on the renewal. And then you're going to get offered student loans. Now you can get a subsidized student loan, which the subsidized student loan is the one where the government pays the interest for you while you're in school. And that's based upon need as well. And then the other kind of student loan they're going to offer is an unsubsidized loan. Everyone can get offered an unsubsidized loan. That one does have interest while you're still in school. You do get the 6-month grace period before repayment starts when you're no longer at least half time enrolled. I believe the current interest rate is 5.78%. I'd have to double check, but I know I'm within a few tenths of a percent on that. And then finally, if you still have a gap in your needs, say for instance you're living on campus and your total cost for the 2 semesters can be $28,000 and you only have $20,000 offered to you. You can do something called a Parent Plus loan. That's basically where your parent goes to studentaid.gov and they apply for a loan for you. The good thing about that is if the parent gets that loan and it's approved, it's going to give you more funding if you need it. And like I said, if you need it, and if it doesn't get approved, but you still need the funding, they do offer you an additional unsubsidized loan. So either way, you're gonna get more funding. And then another loan that I would say, if you're really in a pickle and you need some money and you're a Texas resident, go to hhloans.com, and on there you can see the college access loan. That's a loan. It's a lot like the federal loans, except it's for the state of Texas, and it's the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. That's another loan to look into. But definitely you want to take those grants and those scholarships and, and get all that taken care of, and then see what you still need before you accept any loans. And something to think about too, say for instance, you get the student loan, you get a subsidized loan for $4,000, but you only really need $1,500 of it. You don't have to accept that full amount. Only borrow what you need.
Awesome.
And then also one other thing on that, say for instance, I say, you know what, I'm going to be really smart and I only need that $1,500 and I'm not going to borrow the rest of it. But now it's, the middle of October and I'm like, man, that was a bad decision because I don't have money to pay my rent or what have you. You can go back and revise that as long as the semester is still ongoing. So your decision's not set in stone. Just so you know, come and see me. I can help walk you through that.
Awesome. So if you could say one key thing to students, what would you tell them?
I would tell you to use the resources you have on campus. A lot of times students suffer through things alone, like maybe you're stressed out about your finances. And if you just come to us, we can help you just navigate those waters. Or, there's all kinds of free resources here on campus that actually you've paid for with your tuition and fees. So you're not alone. Don't stick your head in the sand. Bad news does not age well. Face up to it. Come and see us and let us help you through it.
Fantastic. Okay. Some days we end a little early when we don't have more questions, so I don't see any new questions. Is there anything that you thought about covering that maybe you didn't cover that you'd like to add?
Let me think. One of the, you were asking me earlier, how do students get into like a financial hole where they can't continue? Something else that I see that students do that ends up like that is they miss the deadline. The priority deadline for financial aid each year determines whether or not you can get state grant. If you hit that deadline and you qualify for the state grant, you're guaranteed that grant. But if you miss that deadline, even though you qualify for the grant, most likely you're not going to get it. There's a small chance you would get it just based if we had extra funds, we'd go back and award the ones that applied, most recent, closest to the deadline. But I see students that leave like there's I'm talking like $3,000, $2,700 a semester, not a year, a semester on the table because they simply did not do their FAFSA on time or submit the needed documentation on time. So don't do that to yourself.
Awesome. All right. So we haven't had any more questions pop up. We have put a lot of information into our chat. So we've got links to your office as well as information about where you're listed and the times your office is available. So students can look back at this presentation and they'll be able to find that information even if they weren't able to join us today. So they will have all your contact information. We are so grateful to you coming on today. We know that financial issues, as you said, are clearly one of the reasons that people stop out of school. And if we can help them before they stop out, that they're likely to be much more successful. So thank you so much for coming and sharing this information with us. I learned some stuff that now I get to use when I talk to students because I get lots of questions about, here's my finance situation, what can I do? And I didn't know what y'all could do. So now I've got more resources to share with our students. So that's fantastic.
Something I see students that will do sometimes is they'll drop out of school because of finances. They'll say, I can't afford these tuition payments, I'm dropping. But it's after the date in which you get a refund, so they still have to pay the tuition. So there was no reason to drop out because you've already going to be on the hook for those classes. But before you make any kind of rash decision, definitely check out the whole picture. I can walk you through it.
Yep. That is very helpful. And you guys should have a good flyer that says some of that stuff. So I could post it in my office and people could see it when they come in. Because we know that sometimes students are uncomfortable talking about their money issues. You know,
Right.
They feel like that's not school, right? That's like life. So
Right.
they don't think about going to their advisor or somebody all the time to talk about money issues. And yet if they did, they'd get access to resources like your office. So
I'll see if I can find some. I'll have some handouts I can bring over to you.
excellent. Excellent.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
All right. Thanks for having me.
So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Have a good day, y'all. Bye.
Thanks. And students, thank you so much for joining us today. We really are happy to produce this information for you. If you were with us today or you've seen this recording, you probably learned some things and some resources here at UTA that you didn't know. And that's what we're trying to do with our virtual brown bag series. So check back, watch them, and keep track with us. Thank you again for being with us today, and check out the schedule for our next virtual brown bag session. Thank you so much.